Everybody, Scorpio Caesar here, and in today's video I thought it'd be pretty fun to reminisce about my very first experience with video games. And that's right, I'm talking about the very first time I ever held a controller in my hand, and that was with the original Nintendo Entertainment System. That's right, being born in 1989, this console does indeed predate me by a few years. However, it was the very first time I ever got a chance to experience what would become one of my favorite hobbies and arguably the greatest hobby of all time. However, my experience with this console was extremely limited, and the amount of games that I actually got around to playing on it were very small. So this shouldn't be a long video, but we're going to get into that after today's intro, so welcome to the CesArcade.
Get ready.
So before we get into today's topic, I have a question for all of you. What was your very first video game experience? What was the video game, if you could remember that? What console was it on? Was it on PC? I'm interested in knowing. Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you like content like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and maybe hit the like button if you enjoy these kind of videos. Of course, with that out of the way, around sometime 2 years ago, maybe even a year ago, my buddy Vinny and I went to the video game store in Wilkes-Barre, PA, and we decided to pick up some Nintendo nostalgia. He bought a DMG Game Boy, and I decided to come home with the very first console I ever got to experience, and that was the original Nintendo Entertainment System. I wanted to experience the software that I remember playing all those years ago on the original hardware. And I hooked it up to a CRT television, and there was only a few games that I remember from my childhood. And well, let's talk about them. One of the very first games I remember experiencing was the original Punch-Out! You see, this was a game my sisters, my father, we all huddled around the small television set that we had, and we sat down and played through this game. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was never really good at it. I didn't really know what the hell I was doing in this game. That kind of goes with everything else. I mean, when we were young, chances are our older siblings sat us down next to them with a controller that wasn't even plugged in, but we would just simulate like we were actually playing with them. I do remember having the controller in my hands and actually trying to play this game. And boy, did I get my butt whooped pretty fast. I don't even think I got past Glass Joe. That's how bad I was. Granted, at the time, I was probably, what, 4 or 5 years old, maybe even 6, maybe even younger. Hell, I could barely remember those times. But I just remember getting my butt whooped in the original Punch-Out! Now this is Punch-Out! Starring Mr. Dream, but the one we originally played was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! I remember when my older sisters were having such a hard time with some of the fighters in this game. I forget which one it was, but we never really got that far, and I don't even think we ever got to Mike Tyson. That's how brutal this game was for us. But it was still a hell of a time, and it's a game that I always remember fondly as one of the very first video games I ever got around to playing. The other game I remember playing, of course, most 90s kids grew up with this game in particular, and of course it is the original Super Mario Brothers. I mean, an absolute classic. This game really doesn't need an introduction, but I do remember getting around to playing this game when I was younger and just being sucked into the world, remembering World 1-1 and then 1-2, Underground, the blues, the hues, all the beautiful colors in this game caught my imagination, and I loved playing as Mario and jumping on the Goombas, breaking the blocks, growing with the mushrooms, and of course stomping on those Goombas. Granted, I remember getting to Bowser's Castle and not really getting any further than that because I was, like I said, a young tyke, and I never really got far in any of these games because I just sucked big time. But not only Super Mario Brothers, but of course Duck Hunt. Easy to access because it had a damn zapper. At the time, this was it. This was all I needed to play. This was the combo cart of Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. And it was Duck Hunt in particular that I was pretty fond of because I loved shooting ducks. What a maniac I was. It was just fun, shooting the ducks, getting up close and personal with the damn screen, and you know, kind of cheating and just shooting those ducks to make sure I got each and every duck so I wouldn't have to see that stupid dog do his little thing. I hated that bastard. Oh, stupid dog. So I'm a cat person these days. Now granted, it's a light gun game, you need a CRT. You gotta get up close and personal with that little Sony Trinitron over there and just shoot the little damn ducks, because the damn ducks, oh, I hate those ducks. Get those stupid ducks and get that stupid dog. I wish I could shoot the stupid dog too. Anyways. Had a great time with it. Even to this day, playing it is still a great time because it's an absolute classic. Once again, everybody who grew up with the Nintendo Entertainment System knows about Duck Hunt, and if you didn't, then man, I don't know what to tell you. But of course, that wasn't the only game that I ended up playing on the original Entertainment System. You see, we did rent some games here and there. It wasn't very often, but we did. Yeah, my sister and I were big fans of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so of course my father decided to rent us the original goddamn Ninja Turtle game. Oh my gosh. Like, I know a lot of people gave this game crap back in the days, and it's kind of like people have kind of revised their thoughts on the game and said, oh, it's not too bad. Honestly, it really isn't that bad. Very difficult though, and most NES games at the time were indeed pretty difficult. This one was no exception. That being said, we were so young at the time, I never quite got a grasp of it, and I didn't get very far. And being the Ninja Turtle fan that I was, we never did rent it again. And when I bring up the original Nintendo Entertainment System to my father or my older sister, they always seem to remember these games that honestly I don't remember us ever playing. But one of them being Excitebike. Now this is a game I don't remember ever playing until the original Animal Crossing came out on the GameCube and I unlocked it in that game. I played a little bit of it and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. I remember my sister walking in one day and seeing me play it in Animal Crossing. She was like, hey, I remember that game. We used to play it when we were little. And I was just like, we did? I don't remember. Another game my father seems to remember was the original Bases Loaded on the NES. Me personally, I have no recollection of this game. I didn't play a baseball game until Ken Griffey Jr. on the Super Nintendo. I guess he played it with my uncle or something, but I don't remember Bases Loaded. I don't remember ever owning it until recently. And then maybe my sister kind of confirmed this in the comment section down below if we ever got around to renting this, but my sister was a huge fan of The Little Mermaid and all the Disney movies we used to watch on repeat. So I don't recall if we ever rented The Little Mermaid on the NES, but maybe she can confirm if we did, because something about it just seems awfully familiar. Like a light bulb went off in my head and I unlocked like a core memory. However, I don't recall. It's been way too long. And of course, to wrap up today's blast from the past, the legendary Super Mario Bros. 3. And unfortunately, this one has a sad tale to it because I remember playing this game, we were enjoying it. I remember getting up to the water world in particular, and that big fish with the one tooth, we used to call him Latrine, I don't know why, and we always remembered that that stupid fish with the single tooth. It reminds me of certain YouTubers nowadays. And Super Mario Bros. 3, my gosh, what an absolute classic. This game is legendary for a reason. Never got around to beating it until it came out on the Game Boy Advance so many years later, but unfortunately that's where my experience with the original Nintendo Entertainment System comes to an end. You see, for some reason, and I'm sure we all went through this at one point with the original hardware, the games just stopped reading. We would, of course, blow into the cartridges as always. That always seemed to be the fix at the time, and hell, still works to this day somehow, but it wasn't what you were supposed to do, and I don't think we made the thing any better. I don't know what happened. I guess the 72 pin connector on the original hardware just gave out, and what ended up happening was we just stopped playing video games up until one day I remember waking up from a nap and coming to the living room to see my father and my sister playing the Super Nintendo, and I was like, oh my god, what is this? And oh man, I still remember that day vividly. And that's a story for another time, but this would be the end of my original Nintendo, as we would put it in the closet and it wouldn't see the light of day until we would give it to my cousins and my aunt back in the Bronx. That I remember was a sad day as well, because I felt like I was giving away a piece of history. But if there's one thing I love about video games in general is retro gaming, and playing on the original hardware sure does have some of its issues. Like I said, the 72 pin connector to this day still gives me issues, even though I went in there, cleaned it out, boiled it, fixed some of the pins. It's still a little finicky, let's face it. It's getting old. I gotta replace the capacitors in this thing because it is getting up there in age. I'm shocked the damn thing even still works. But this hardware is built like a brick, and so are the controllers. Now, if you're looking to play on the original Nintendo Entertainment System, I got a ton of videos to talk about some of the games that I've picked up over the past couple of years. I've gotten so many NES games recently, and I want to talk about them in videos. Now, if you're like me and you're going through a resurgence with nostalgia in the original Nintendo Entertainment System, then might I recommend, instead of going with the original hardware, check out the Retro USB ABS. You see, this is an FPGA console, so it doesn't emulate the games. It's the chips in the hardware actually emulating what the original hardware does. So it's not like, you know, you're dumping the ROM into it. It's reading actual cartridges and playing them like you usually would on original Nintendo hardware. It does have HDMI out, and it outputs to 720p, which is an absolute godsend, especially compared with the M Classic that puts it at 1080p. If you're looking for a modern way to play the original Nintendo Entertainment System games, I bought this recently and I do not regret it one bit. It's given a new lease of life to my NES library that's been growing ever since I picked this one up, because like I said, I'm getting to experience all these games that I never got to experience originally when I had this console growing up, because we were just playing this console pretty casually. So anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this little blast from the past, talking about my very first video game console experience. And with that out of the way, I wish you all a good game and good night. The end card will be popping up with some other videos you might be interested in, so definitely check those out when you get the chance. Anyways, I'll see you all very soon.